Well, hello. I have to tell you, my producer said to me last week when I don't remember what show it was, they were like, "Hey, Glenn, what's the wee little Aaron?" They said, "Hey, Glenn, you cool because you've only got a handful of bullet points here." And I said, "Yeah, I can ad-lib, but we're fine." And I said, "Wait a minute, are you concerned that I can't fill the half hour here that we have and you don't know what's in it, or are you concerned that I'm going to need more time?" That night I needed more time, and now I need more time as well. And I probably will cover a little of this tomorrow, but I want to go over the categories. When it comes to violence and violent acts, America needs to understand this, that we can break it up into these three categories. Crazy people. I don't even know if I would say militant radicals. And terrorists. The second one is those who want to collapse the system. And those could be people from the right or the left. Those could be people who say, you know what, it's too corrupt, and we got to start all over again and let it collapse. And they urge a collapsing. Or the people like Francis Fox Piven. But let me start at the beginning. Let me start with crazy people. That's your Virginia Tech kind of people. Do I have those? I think I put them on another board. Do we have them? Yeah, I put them on the other side of this board. Anyway, those are your people, your Virginia Tech shooter. Remember him? He was crazy. John Hinckley. Columbine. DC snipers. Post office shooters. They're crazy. They're all people who have lost the rational ability to make a decision, and they've convinced themselves that they have to take violent action. Crazy people are trouble, real trouble, because they will blame it on anyone. Remember Jodie Foster? Was Jodie Foster, was she responsible? Because that's why John Hinckley wanted to shoot the president. Jodie Foster wasn't responsible. And quite honestly, neither was, what was it, Raging Bull that he was watching? The second category are those who want to do harm to the republic. Not necessarily violence, at least themselves, but they believe if they can collapse the system, they can reshape the world to fit their heart's desire. This would be a category, and this is such a great example. This is the Fabian socialists. And the second one are radicals that want to collapse the system. This is the famous Fabian socialist window in England. And it's such a great example, because you'll notice that the world is not blue, it's red. It's being heated up as they use the billows to stoke the flames to heat the world, so they can hammer it into the shape they want and remold it nearer to the heart's desire. These people are dangerous, but they're not shooters. They're not crazy people. And they're not necessarily shooters. They're not calling for violence per se. And maybe if we lived in a perfect world, you know, the let it collapse idea would work maybe, but it doesn't. Because collapsing leads to chaos, and that's where the violence comes in. This is anarchy. They aren't directly responsible for killings, and they believe, some of them, in a bloodless revolution, but some of them do not. Some of them do not. And then there's the third category, terrorists. These are the people that believe strapping a bomb to their chest and blowing themselves up is the answer. People like Osama bin Laden, who try to make a case that tries to persuade people to put those vests on and commit acts of violence for him. Well, he didn't necessarily do it himself, but he's convinced others to do it for him. He's a terrorist, and so are the 19 hijackers. They do it in order to scare people into giving Osama bin Laden or whoever else whatever it is they want. The Arizona shooter did not fit this one, really, and didn't fit this one. He fit this. If you saw any of the rantings on YouTube or anywhere else, it's quite clear he's a madman who lost his mind. But, and this is why I issued the challenge, there are those who are calling for violence. And I don't mean somebody like, you know, anybody over on MSNBC. I could play the game that they do, but I'm not going to, because I haven't heard anybody really call for violence in the media. But there are those that are calling on both sides of the spectrum. On the left, Frances Fox Piven. She is the designer of the Cloward and Piven blueprint. She doesn't shy away from advocating violence. Watch.
Have considerable respect for nonviolence, but I don't treat it as inevitably a necessary rule. It's a violent country. It's a violent government. It's killing people. And they're going to call us violent if we break a window. But they will do that. So probably, unless you have good reason for breaking the window, probably you shouldn't do that. Unless it's, you know, a big part of your strategy.
Okay. That is really important. Unless it's a big part of your strategy. Cloward and Piven, it was a model to collapse the system. And it was inspired by the Watts riots. So you're watching this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. I know the answer. I know how we can have basically a communist revolution. You get people to do that. But how do you get people to do that? You collapse the system. This is a riot. Her inspiration was a riot that killed 34 people, injured over 1,000. 3,500 were arrested. She has no problem with violence as long as it's part of the overall strategy. Then you have Bill Ayers, personally engaged in violence with the Weather Underground. He's refused to denounce it on several occasions. Those actions, he says he doesn't have a problem with it. He said he wishes they could do more. Van Jones has also never denounced his militant communist views. He was in the militant radical group Storm. Quote, Storm's street militancy was one of its most defining characteristics. Now, on the far right, there are groups like the Sovereign Citizens. Now, this is a movement that believes literally that the law doesn't apply to them. A father and son who consider themselves part of this movement got into a shootout after a routine traffic stop and killed 2 police officers. Then there are the extremist racist groups who some would consider right, KKK groups, white supremacists, and so forth. They are calling for violence. These groups are out there. And yet we don't hear about them. Cloward and Piven, Frances Fox Piven just issued another statement where she's like, wear your anger. We played it for you last week. Embrace your hatred. Rise up. The media will focus on tea parties, and they'll leave this alone. Tea parties, maybe the Sovereign Citizens, but not Frances Fox Piven. Let me be clear on this. Whether you kill in the name of Allah or Jodie Foster, you're a murderer. You're a terrorist. This guy was a nut job in Arizona. But if history is any guide, it's only a matter of time before somebody does something else. The world is going into the angry mob direction. An angry mob in Greece beat a former finance minister within an inch of his life, beat him down in the ground. In England, protesters attacked Prince Charles' car. I don't care if it's Karl Marx or George Washington. You're a terrorist and a killer. And that needs to be enunciated in advance. I think I'm the only one trying to get this point across. I think I'm the only one. But that's what this challenge is all about. Let's find out. Let's find out how many people will actually believe it. How many people are actually concerned about violence, and how many people are just trying to play a political game. Because I'm concerned about violence. I'm concerned if it's come from the right or the left. When I first heard the news on Saturday, I couldn't have told you. Is it from the right or the left? I don't know. Is it from a crazy person? I don't know. I believe in what I'm saying. That's why I will tell you the truth as I understand it. And that's why I will wait for the facts before... That's why I wait for the facts while everybody in the media seems to surely charade people. This is much bigger than a little game that the media in Washington is playing. I urge you to stop playing the game. And we watch for these people. These are the categories of people that are a danger. The crazy people, the radicals that want to collapse the system, and the terrorists. There's a difference between those people and people who are having political disagreements. Maybe the media should learn that and then demonstrate that they understand that and demonstrate that they actually believe one word that they say by exposing those who are actually calling for real violence in this country. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow night.